In this valley there is a mill by the stream. The mill's shaft has broken. The shaft transmits the turning power of the water wheel to the mill gears and the grinding mechanism. The heavy oak tree from which the millwright and carpenter will work together to prepare the new shaft has already been moved down to the mill on the winter-hardy roads. The miller greets the two craftsmen on their arrival. He and his son will assist them with their work. On the strip of meadow between the mill garden and the stream bank, the hewing bed has already been set up. The raw oak trunk is propped up on the hewing bed. Lacing the trunk, the bark is peeled off in wide, longitudinal strips. From the bark, the carpenter prepares the black ash for dyeing the cord. The charred pieces are crushed and mixed with water to a black paste. The string unwinding from the reel is blackened. The carpenter eyes the line. On the bark-free areas of the trunk, the string lines to the right and left mark the first two hewn edges. The wood must be chipped away up to the applied lines. The trunk is first notched, according to old carpentry techniques. The notches break through the light sapwood and expose the dark-colored heartwood of the oak inside. The closely spaced notches facilitate the chipping away of the protruding wood. The roughly hewn side surfaces must now be smoothed with the carpenter's axe. It is warmed over the fire to prevent the thin, razor-sharp steel from shattering during work in the winter cold. The chiseled surfaces are made smooth. Help is needed to rotate the heavy log. After the edges have been worked, the hewing of the two remaining bark sides begins, which are also initially cut off and then flattened. Here, a third string stroke is required across the middle of the smooth surface so that the pivot points can be determined. Using simple hand tools, the work must be carried out to the millimeter if the drive shaft is to run precisely later in the mill. After notching the last two sides, axing the cheeks, and smoothing the surfaces, the trunk takes on the shape of a mighty square beam. In further steps, the cylindrical shape of the shaft must now be carved out of the four-sided hewn oak. On the upright and precisely plumbed trunk, the four edges are chipped away one after the other. The octagonal shape of the finished mill oak becomes more and more visible. The holes for the turning cranks are already being drilled into the shaft heads. To facilitate work with the turning knives during the round milling, the 8 edges are first broken off and flattened. Finally, the cylindrical shape of the shaft emerges, which needs to be finely machined during turning. Now the cranks are aligned and hammered precisely into the center axis of the shaft. On the scaffolding, the log is lowered slowly into the turning bearing. The farmers who are to help with the shaft turning bring the turning rods with them. The stop beam, on which the turning knives rest during work, is raised into place. There isn't much protruding wood left that the knives have to grasp and mill away. In constant rotation, from one end to the other, the two men guide the turning knives along the rotating shaft until it is turned completely smooth. The two shaft ends that have a conical shape must be specially worked. The roundness and length of the shaft heads are marked. The striking handle of the powerfully applied knives has often led to serious injuries. The iron pins must now be inserted into the finished shaft on which they will run in the mill. The iron rings, which are placed in the fire, will later be installed. On the harder root end of the shaft, which must support the water wheel, a two-wing pivot is inserted, which the miller's son has just brought over. The inserted slot has the dimensions of the two wings of the shaft pivot. The hole at the end of the saw gap loosens the wood, which can now be easily chiseled out. The hole in the middle must be enlarged to accommodate the thick neck of the shaft. The annealed and quenched rings clamp the inserted pivot firmly in the gap. Flat beech wood wedges ensure an immovable fit. A three-wing pivot is inserted at the other end of the shaft. The three wings give this tenon a secure fit, but wrought can also penetrate the three-beam saw cut more easily. The tenon is therefore attached to the end of the shaft that will extend into the interior of the mill house. The installation procedure is similar to that used previously with the two-wing tenon. Once the new shaft is installed in the mill gear and the water wheel is attached to the outside, the miller can resume his milling work again. Please like and subscribe for more history-saving videos.